Squad up, haters down, haters down. If you ain't about that life, don't come around, don't come around. Got the crowd, gone wild, gone wild. Tell me what you know about that Mem style.
Yo, it's your boy mr.jelks.
What's up? It's your boy O, man.
And you're watching the Memphis.Jelks Show. Oh, we back. We are back. Man, what's up?
Season 2?
It's season 2.
Man, listen, last week was a good show, man.
Last week was a really, really good show, man. Shout out to T Will, man, our first guest of season 2, man. Everybody out there who looking to get their videos done, or if you're trying to shoot a movie or whatever you're trying to do visually, holla at T Will. He did an amazing job, man. So, man, how has it been going this week, bro?
Man, it's been going, brother. It's been a little cold up here, man. We had snow yesterday. It wasn't like snow, but we had some flurries going on, man. Yeah, listen, that weather ain't no joke, man. We was in the low high 30s today. So, man, it's been good though, man. Work has been good this week, man. How your week been?
Man, it's been good, man. Especially since we didn't have no snow.
Man. We got some more coming Friday, so hey.
Well, we got a little rain coming. We got a little rain coming Friday, so you know.
Say hello to my little friend.
Say hello to my little friend, man. The weather. We call him the weather around here.
Yeah, but summer right around the corner though. So Summer is definitely right around the corner, man. We want to thank, man. Right now, let's take a minute, man, because I want to thank everybody who watching, everybody who been supporting the movement, man. Everybody who been going on Amazon and buying the Memphis.Jelks Show T-shirts. Yes. And if you don't get the Memphis.Jelks Show T-shirt, we got the Memphis.Jelks T-shirts without the show. So, we supporting all the way around, the music and the show. And speaking of music, man, I've been hearing a lot about country music is starting to take over like the #1 spot when it comes to the musical genres being on top. They're saying that country music may be on the verge of taking it away from hip hop. What are your thoughts on that? I don't know about that part, man. This is my personal opinion. I don't know about that part. Country music is popular, but I don't know that it would overtake hip hop. Definitely not anytime soon. I think country music is having a resurgence, right? I think it's coming back. We got a couple artists tapping into the countryside, and it's kind of bringing some visibility to it. So, I think it's kind of like making its wave up again, but I don't necessarily think it's taking over. I don't think it's going to take over hip hop.
I agree. I agree, man, because it's just, it don't have that beat. It don't have that feel. It don't have that, it's a certain sound that hip hop has that country music they just don't have. But although I have heard several country songs in the past years to where they're using hip hop drums.
You gotta be relatable, right? If you start thinking about the listener, right? Who's listening? Mm-hmm. So if you want to tap into a different market, because country has its own market, right? It has its own brand. It has its own thing. I don't know if you ever seen a Garth Brooks show, man, but
yes,
a few years ago when he came to the FedEx Forum, man, and performed, bro, it was like crazy, sold out, crazy type energy. So like it has its own group of fans, but like for some of the younger artists who are budding, right, tapping into a different market, man, tapping into a different listener. Sometimes you have to have things that are familiar, right? That'll open up the door. I'm a person who listens to all genres of music, and so the hip hop elements will make me more likely to open to listening to more and listening to it more often. But I still just have some core country songs that I listen to that resonate with me. So I can see why it's happening, because I think some of the people that's getting into it now, they kind of grew up listening to some of the, hip hop and R&B and hardcore rap stuff. So, you got to understand how to connect and build an audience, especially when you're different in the country realm.
Hold up. You went to a Garth Brooks show?
No, I ain't go to that. I ain't go to one, but I would go to one though. Garth Brooks he got some good music.
Oh, okay. You were talking about how immaculate it was and all that, man.
Well,
I was going to start, I was going to call hip hop. I was going to call hip hop and say, selling out.
You know, like social media, man. You can see everything, man. Everybody's recording something, man. So you can get snippets and glimpses of it. So, just looking on social media at it, man, it was crazy in there. People love Garth Brooks.
That's what's up, man. Shout out to Garth Brooks, man, and shout out to everybody, man, who watching the show, everybody who been supporting, everybody who been sending cash apps. You know what I'm saying? People been, sending cash apps. They want to see the show keep going, man, and we appreciate all the love, man.
Yeah, for sure.
And don't forget, exactly, yep. And don't forget, y'all can call in to the show live, and y'all can chop it up with us. Right now, live on air. The number is on the screen, 901-410-0123. We'd love to hear from y'all.
When you call in, turn your background down, please.
Please turn your background down.
You saying
exactly. If you
just remember that part. We want you to call in, but turn that background down just a little bit for us.
Yep, because sometimes people call and they have they background loud, and we be like, get him out of here! Get him out! Yes. Come on. And that's what it is, man. That's what it is.
Speaking of technical difficulties.
Come on. Let me make sure that we connected. Oh, yeah. So y'all can call in. Now we got the phone lines. You know what I'm saying? They're open. Yeah. And tonight, man, we got another special guest for him, man.
Yeah, we coming with him this season.
Y'all know how we do it, man. We worldwide here at the Memphis Jelks Show, man. So tonight, man, our guest is from the mighty, mighty New York. Brooklyn, New York, to be exact. Shout out to Brooklyn, New York, the home of hip hop. The home. Man, our next guest, man, it's an honor and a blessing to have him, man. We are so glad that he was able to take out a little bit of time from his busy schedule as the first African American director of ABC News Live. Yes, this is huge. This show is about to be crazy. I hope y'all ready for it, man. This is crazy, man. We gotta shout out to Lion, for my homie Lion for connecting us, man, and bringing this all together, bringing this dope interview all together, man. Shout out to Lion. I ain't gonna hold him, man. The CEO of 319 Entertainment, the first African American director of ABC News Live, coming to the stage, or should I say, the one, the only.
Drums, please.
Dante Dottin. Welcome to the show.
Wow. Hey, man, with the intro like that, man, I better bring it. If I come with some lukewarm foolishness, I want y'all to get me out of here. Don't let me bring you down, man.
Never. No, you the man. If you the man, we just appreciate the fact that you took out a little time to come hang with us.
Hey, man, I appreciate brothers doing their thing, and I love what you guys got going on, and I'm definitely honored to be here. So let's get the party started, man. Come on.
All right, we're going to get it started. Here we go. All right, first question. Brooklyn, New York, the home of hip hop, man. Describe to us you coming up in Brooklyn, starting from maybe your elementary school, going into the junior high.
Sure. All right. Well, first of all, let's lay the background down. So, I'm the product of West Indian parents. Both my parents are from Barbados. Which prior to Rihanna coming in and putting us on the map, we actually existed. So, a lot of a lot of people don't know Dougie Fresh is Barbadian, or as we would say, Bayesian. So Dougie
Okay.
Fresh is actually the first recognized Bayesian in hip hop. I'm sure there's others out there, but he's the one that definitely gets that respect. And so, we're growing up, and uh, I'm gonna talk a little bit pre hip hop, and then I'll talk hip hop. So pre hip hop, it's all R&B. I mean, we listening to Teddy Pendergrass, we listening to Smokey Robinson. We listening to the Temptations, because really a lot of the what we're listening to is the holdover from the '70s, and I was born in '71, so it's a holdover from the late '60s, and then the '70s had that nice cool vibe and stuff, R&B and pop music, and even rock and roll. If you was listening to AM radio growing up, you got an education, because I don't know if they had a playlist or format like that, but you got an education in music, man. You heard what we would call white music, and then you would hear black music, and then you would hear 1010 winds music, and I mean weather, and traffic on the ones. And it's like you heard a little bit of everything, and you sitting there, you eating your cream of wheat or your oatmeal or whatever, and you're just absorbing all of this musical tapestry. So it was really educational, and you learn to appreciate what each art form had, even if you didn't know it. That's why exposure is so important, because you learn so much via osmosis. And it's just really important that we expose our kids to a lot of different things, because they'll realize it later. Like growing up, we watched Tom and Jerry and Pink Panther and Bugs Bunny, and all of those cartoons had jazz, classical music in it. I mean, you do you remember Tom and Jerry, where Tom was doing that "is you is or is you ain't my baby"? That was
Mm-hmm.
that. I mean, come on, man. That was like
Yeah.
some like jazzy kind of vibe. And Pink Panther was straight jazz. It wasn't even no dialogue. It was straight jazz. So you just end up hearing so many different things and appreciating what it brought. And so, but to my upbringing, so so son of West Indian parents, so you understand that, and I'm the youngest son of three. I have two, oh, I have four rather. I have a older sister and two older brothers, and strict upbringing. Education is very important. Work hard. Put your nose to the grindstone, and all the stuff that I'm sure across the board West Indians share with their upbringing, with their from their parents. But then, you get to a certain age where you start to rebel. And the funny thing was that for us, the age of rebellion was right around the birth of hip hop. So we were rebelling as preteens, but we were also keyed into this beautiful art form that we saw growing up on the street corners. I mean, for us, hip hop was something that grew. You started seeing people rapping and doing stuff like that on the street corner, and breakdancing and stuff, and you didn't know what it was going to be. You just knew you liked it, but and that was kind of, I thought that was a very unique mixture, was that as you were coming into a sense of your own, society was shifting, and there was something that was uniquely for you because your parents didn't know. My father used to call rap that boom boom music, because that's all he could hear is the boom 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 boom. So it's like, what that boom boom music? It's like it's called rap. You might wrap it around your head if you don't get it out of here. So that's that old stuff. But it was ours. And we enjoyed it, man. And I would say, man, my upbringing in Brooklyn, it was it was educational. I was never a kid that was in the streets, but I knew the streets, because you have to navigate the streets, and that's something people don't get, is that you don't have to be in the streets to understand the streets. Because if you have to go from your front door to the bus stop, and then the bus stop to the train station to get to where you have to go, you got to know the streets. You got to know who that guy is. You got to know who the what you call it the who the cool people are, who the funny people are, and who the dangerous people are. And you got to know how to navigate all of that, and you learn that. And so I got to say that I took the best parts of the street with me. It's still with me, and I kept the worst parts away. So
Awesome. That's perfect timing. Hip hop had perfect timing for y'all to be like just hitting adolescence, and then it starts to manifest. That's, man, come on. What better? What better could you ask for? At that age.
Absolutely, and I had a personal experience with it because while this art form called hip hop was forming, I actually, a childhood friend of mine, and I don't want to get ahead of the game. I know you guys want the interview
Nuh-uh.
to,
Go
you
ahead.
know,
Go ahead. Let's.
but
Hey,
this is your show. I'm just trying to do my part.
let's
But
get into it. No, man, come on. You're the special guest. You can talk about whatever you want, man. This is
I I
it's a
appreciate.
blessing to have you here.
I appreciate it. So as hip hop was forming as an art form, one of its early pioneers was someone that I knew growing up as a kid, and he was one of the big guys. He was 5 years older than me, but at the time, if you're 10 and he's 15, he might as well be 15, 20 years older than me. And I'm talking about hip hop legend Kango Kid of the group UTFO, who had the groundbreaking hit of his time, Roxanne, Roxanne. And I remember Kang way before Roxanne, Roxanne. I remember him way before UTFO because back then he was just this huge personality. It's funny when when you work in the entertainment industry and you end up interacting with different stars, and the ones that have a performance face, and then the ones that are just the same way all the time. Kang was the same way all the time. On stage, off stage, Kang was Kang. And so he was always this huge personality on the block. And he was, wearing his hat and, that was his thing. And, pop locking and whatever and breakdancing, but then also rapping. And his raps, I got to say, sometimes I wasn't always a fan of them because they took the form of insulting me. He would diss rap me, and, yeah, and listen, man, I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. Like, there's a particular moment I remember. Like our parents, like I said, very strict West Indian parents, and so we had a curfew. Now Kang's parents, Haitian, and I don't know if it just different household dynamics. Him and his family had a little more leniency with curfews. Excuse me. So what would end up happening is, um, we would have to go, me and my brothers would have to go inside, or at the very least go on the steps. You have to be like, when the lights go on the street lights go on, you got to be on the steps, or if not inside. And Kang would make fun of us. He'd be like, "Oh man, y'all got to go inside," and he would make his little diss raps about us. And I mean, what are you gonna do? I mean, like, he was right. We had a curfew, but we didn't like the fact that he had to make it all about, like, hey, calm down, like, just let us go inside peacefully. And Kang was like, no, we're gonna make fun of you, and you're gonna feel the pain, and we did. But that was his talent. His talent was to pick apart you and pick apart. Yeah, as you can see, we obviously made up. But back in the days, I was not a friend of his because, like I said, man, he would make you feel it, man. He would make you feel it. But it was an undeniable talent because he would do what we call off the dome, like in hip hop, when you don't have a written down rap and you just think it, he would do that like effortlessly, and he would do that based upon, like, it's almost like how a comedian will look at you and go, "Oh man," and just make like jokes about you in the moment. So if your legs were ashy, you're done. Okay, if your sneakers was busted, you're done. And if your outfit wasn't crisp, you're done. So you just had to. In some ways, it taught you to not be ashy or have busted kicks, or because it was like, okay, if I got to do a Kang check before I leave my house and make sure that I'm giving him zero ammunition. So I put an extra cocoa butter on the knees. I'm making sure that the laces is fat laced and done up right. I'm making sure that the polo shirt or the La Tigra or the Izod, you know what I'm saying, is all like, together. Because if he goes outside and he looks you up and down and he ain't got nothing to say, he gonna give you a pass. But if he don't give him something to say. So, but yeah, that was my childhood friend, and he went on to become this iconic person in hip hop, part of his group UTFO. We could talk a lot more about him. I'll let you guys throw some questions out there, but definitely a big part of my life as a personal level, and also a big part of my life professionally, because of certain inspirational things that we went through together. But I'll throw it back to you guys at this point.
First of all, could we do like a brief RIP? Do a brief moment of silence for Kango
Please.
Kid.
Always, man.
Rest in peace, Kango Kid.
Absolutely.
I guess one of my first questions would be, how was it when the industry, like when industry started coming around? Because you were like you said, y'all were coming into adolescence, and hip hop was just, like you said, a street, something that y'all would do in the streets, like, at parks and like on the corners and stuff like that. At what point did like Roxanne, like that, which matter of fact, I had a quick story about Roxanne. That's one of the first hip hop songs I ever heard in my life that I can remember, because I remember hanging out with one of my uncles in Decatur, Illinois. I ain't gonna bust him out because I was in his room and I could smell something that smelled kind of funny, and he was smoking
before it was legal.
Yeah. And all I heard on the radio was Roxanne. Duh. I was like, I love this, bro. I loved it. I was like, and it might have sounded better because of what he was smoking. I might have had like a buzz and didn't know it. I didn't know what that was, but I was like, but yeah, Roxanne was the first record that I ever heard. So how did Kango Kid and you and y'all maneuver when y'all started realizing that, oh, we could actually record records and put them out and become like sell them and be in the industry and whatnot?
Right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'll speak from an observational standpoint about Kang, but then I'll speak from a position of what my take on it was. So I clearly remember Kang evolving very quickly. First of all, mad confident. I remember the summer before Roxanne dropped. I don't remember the exact month it dropped, but I remember we were hanging out, and he said, in some conversation we was having with a bunch of people on the block, he says, yo, by this time next year, I'm going to be a star. And we were like, how? Because I mean, look, there's no YouTube, there's no nothing, there's no like, if you tell a person today, yo, man, I'm going to put together a show and I'm going to put it out there, they'd be like, yeah, it's called YouTube. Like, what are you saying? It's not that big of a deal. I mean, you could make a lot of money with it if you do it right, but it's not an impossible. The thought process of making it happen is not impossible. But this was 83. This was before, because Roxanne dropped in 84, I believe. So this was 83. And so the concept of like you saying you're going to be a star, it's like, how? You're not in Hollywood. You don't know nobody. But he was positioned very well, because before they dropped the song, before UTFO came out, Kango Kid and Dr. Ice were part of, well, actually, they're the first dancers for a rap group. Prior to that, rap groups didn't have dancers. So Houdini, which was another monumental, impactful rap group, Houdini had Kango and Dr. Ice as their backup dancers while they were doing hit songs like Friends, One Love, The Freaks Come Out at Night, all of that. And if you take a look at those videos where they were on stage, you'll see Kang and Doc Ice in red leather suits dancing and breakdancing and pop locking and basically bringing the energy to Houdini's performance. So,
wow.
So when we saw this, we were like, because mind you, we're also watching Video Music Box. Back then, New York City, that was where you went to get your video fix. And we're seeing the guy he lived 2 houses down from me. We're seeing him on videos. And we're like, damn, he called it. He really called it. you know, and that was like, that was just one of his like many early victories. And but he was saying like, look, man, I'm going to be a star. At that point, he already knew that he had hooked up with Full Force, which was an '80s R&B band, but at the same time a production powerhouse. They produced for Lisa and Cult Jam, UTFO. They went on to produce for Rihanna, for the Backstreet Boys, NSYNC. These guys have been a huge part of the industry and still are. They're still, reaching out and putting their hand and putting their talent on people. But he already knew that he had made contact with Full Force, and so as such, he already kind of knew that this was going to work out. Did he know how big it was going to be? Impossible. There was no way he could have known that because no one had done it like that. I mean, every region, like you would think that someone was a global hit if they had a regional hit because you didn't understand regions. You didn't know that there's, the East Coast, there's the Midwest, there's, West Coast. You didn't understand that. So you'd figure if it's a hit here in New York, it's a hit there in Cali. And it really wasn't. But with the case of Roxanne, it really was. These guys, and I don't want to say that they were the first rap act to have that kind of influence and that kind of reach, but they were definitely one of the early ones. Roxanne came out and blew the world on its back because it just, for what it was, man. I mean, it was just such a great song. 3 rappers, each one having that. And the cool part about it is rap is an art form that's braggadocious.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Excuse me, gentlemen. Rap is an art form that's braggadocious. I mean, I got a big long Cadillac like a Seville and written right on the side, it reads dressed to kill. So if you see me cruising girls, move a step aside, there ain't enough room to fit you all in my ride. It's all about that. And you got a rap song that whether they realized it or not, you got a rap song where all 3 of the guys did not get the girl. They didn't get the girl. They did not get the girl. So, it's like maybe, I mean, I'm sure there's a story behind that. And if I knew it in greater detail, I would share it with you. But just the fact that the end result was 3 guys that didn't get the girl, but yet at the same time, this was a huge hit, showed that they were keyed in enough to say, you know what? In whatever way this can be taken, let's be a little humble. I'm the soldier of love. I'm the doctor. I'm the educated rapper. I'm the ninja. Mixmaster Ice. But at the same time, none of us are going to get this girl, and that's a very real thing because the fly guy doesn't always get the fly girl. So
Yeah.
They were thinking ahead of their time. They were thinking ahead of their time because
yeah.
that was a message. They were giving a message, before they even realized that, that you could actually, put messages into the songs. Well, I don't know what year did The Message come out by Melly Mel and them?
Oh wow, you're gonna have to Google that. But I would say if we were doing a little quiz there, I would say that felt like an 81, 82 joint.
Okay.
That wasn't too far. That's what I'm saying. These guys were early.
So
they were putting messages into their music. It might have rubbed off on them from The Message, Melly Mel. Like let's put depth. Let's add depth to it. It'll be, if we get the girl, like that would be obvious. Let's make it to where let's do something different. I feel like that they added something in there that really took it to a different dimension, song wise, and that's probably why it blew up so much too. Like you said, the humbleness of it. They weren't screaming, oh, we can get every single girl. They're like, there's still some girls out there that we can't get, even though we the flyest and the dopest and the But I want you to think about something. If Roxanne had came out in the '90s, each and every one of them would have ran a train on her. It would have been Roxanne's a hoe. It'd have been like the skank hoe that everybody knows. And then it would have been she would have been trashed because it was at that point in the 90s, it was acceptable that, and we can talk freely over here. So I mean, it was
Mm-hmm.
acceptable that women were bitches. And
Yeah.
back then,
Yep.
you were still, look, you have to understand that these guys were coming right off of the cusp of R&B. And what is R&B? R&B is like, come on and stay with me. Come
Yeah.
on over to my place. You're trying to get the drawers. You're not
Yep.
trying to chase her away. And look, ain't no woman wanna. I mean, unfortunately, there are some women, and those women need therapy. But there's no real women that are going to accept you disrespecting them and then give you their time, attention, and their
Yeah.
affection. So you have to understand that the point of this was still to get the woman. So they weren't dissing her. They were trying to, they were trying to say, yo, man, come on, get with me. But
Mm-hmm.
very real. Not everybody, like I said, not every fly guy gets a fly girl, and it was smart of them to go that direction.
That was genius, and that's I want to I can't pinpoint it, but I can say that that's probably one of the reasons why the song took off the way it did and took the world by storm the way that it did. Which is a blessing. Because like if you were to come out if you try to be humble like that in a record these days, it might pop off, but the climate is just like you said, it's just so much different now. The climate, and I'm a hip hop fanatic from when I was like about 5 years old up until now, and I still have mad respect and mad love for the music that had more messages in it, but where we still could get our groove on and we still could dance to it. But at the end of the day, you could go home and nobody got shot, nobody got killed. The party was popping. Everybody had a blast. Everybody get to wake up in the morning the next day and talk about how good the party was last night. That's what hip hop means to me. It's just
Yeah.
I just sometimes I get a little disappointed in what the mainstream is pushing as far as what the music is. Good music is still out here, but the mainstream, it seems like they're unappreciative of real hip hop. And to me, real hip hop is partying, have a good time, being fly, like you said, talking to the chicks, trying to get, chicks trying to talk to the dudes. But at the end of the day, everybody go home safely, and everybody wake up the next day, and do it again next weekend. You know what I'm saying?
Well, what you're actually pointing out very astutely is that the industry got a hold of it. And I mean, whether you believe conspiracies or what have you, you just have to take a look at the end result. There was a period of time where positive rap was suppressed and
Yep.
negative rap was glorified. And that's
Yep.
because people, they said, "Oh, this is what people want." Well, look, if you serve me fast food every day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that's the only choice you give me, I'm going to eat fast food, but I'm going to be unhealthy. The
Yep.
fact of the matter is that if hip hop were allowed to have grown and evolved without having the corporate structure tell you what you want, even though you're creating the very thing you want, then hip hop would have been a tree with many branches, and each branch would have bore fruit, and we all could have nourished ourselves off of whatever branch we wanted.
Yeah.
But the industry doesn't work like that. The industry says, okay, this person was a hit. We need 10 more of them.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So the industry is always about emulation, not innovation. And every now and then, a talent creeps through and makes it happen. And then the industry all of a sudden shifts and goes, oh, well, let's look over here. It's like, well,
Yeah.
look over here, but look over here and look over here and look up there and look down here. Keep looking around because talent is everywhere. And
Correct.
the problem is that the money made the money made the decision. You wanted the
Yeah.
money. Like you wanted the money. I mean, you're an artist, you deserve to make money. But until you control the streams of how the money is made, then the money controls you. So either you control the money or the money controls you. And I feel that, uh, you know, late 80s, early 90s is when the industry really started saying, okay, rap is not going away. It's not a fad. And we're going to start investing in it. And they had money left over from the money they made from rock and roll, the money they made from R&B, the money they made from pop. And they said, okay, we've got $10 million. Let's start a label. And just imagine being in that position where financially you could just throw $10 million into something that might fail or it might succeed, but you have the money to make it happen.
Right.
So the money controlled the artistry. And just to circle back to Kang, um, their last album was an album called UTFO's last album was an album called Bag It and Bone It. And it came out after Two Live Crew with Me So Horny and all the raunchiness. And their label, which I think was Jive, they were originally on Select Records. I think their last label was Jive. Their label was like, well, you guys are going to have to be raunchy. And they're like, that's not what we do. And they said, well, that's what you're going to do, or we're not going to let you out of your last contract. Now, I don't know the specifics of it, but that's the story as it was told to me. And, there's no reason for me to doubt it. And if you take a look, it was called Bag It and Bone It. And the album cover was a dog bone with a condom on it.
Crazy.
Like I gotta lean in and just kind of like
crazy.
Really? And that was what now mind you, this is coming from Untouchable Force Organization, the Soldier of Love, Kango, the Dr. Ice, the Educated Rapper, the Ninja. These guys were the Village People of Rhyme. Yep, there it is. Look at that. That was their album cover. UTFO, Bag It and Bone It. And I remember Kang telling me about this. He was like, in fact, in the video, there was a song that they did one video for called I'm a Dog. Kango refused to wear his Kango in the video. He wore another hat. Probably the only time that he ever, out of protest, did not wear his hat because he didn't want his hat and ultimately his name associated with this travesty, because this was not who UTFO was. It was who they were forced to become because the label made them do it. And this is one of the purest examples of how business and artistry can tear each other apart, or rather, the business can tear artistry apart because the artist doesn't have a leg to stand on. Because of course we know most contracts heavily favor the label, and the artist is has to abide by the rules of the label.
Man, I just gotta say I thank God for the years later, the label that I ended up signing to when I was like 18 or 19. My CEO was the complete opposite. He was like, I ain't putting my money behind that cussing shit. He said, either you keep it clean, and either you keep it clean, or I ain't putting my money behind it. He's like, he was like, he has friends that he golfs with and all this kind of stuff, and he said he not playing that, cussing music and stuff around them because he's gonna try to get them to invest too. So there were still good people, good people out there who were still willing to sign, clean, positive acts. But yeah, it's messed up that the label would come at them like that, telling them the complete opposite. Make it raunchy, make it nasty, make it dirty. Like the dirtier the better. And you see that's happening now too. Like talk about killing each other, talk about taking pills, make sure you add a little bit of I'm a F your girl and all that in there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Make sure we need all that. If not, they'll tell you go back in the studio. This ain't it.
And here's the unfortunate truth of it is that a lot of these artists will actually, before the label even tells them, the artists are smart. I mean, artists are not dumb. I mean, to create art out of thin air is an intellectual. It's not intellectually inferior. You have to have something up here in order to create that. And the artists are taking the temperature of the room, and they're like, I'm not like. Imagine you're a rapper right now, and you want to come out and you write a rap, and it's talking about positive stuff, maybe real stuff, but positive. And then you look around and you go, okay, but who's making money? And you don't see anybody looking like you or sounding like you. You're going to tear that up. You're going to throw it in the back and you're going to come out with something crazy because most artists are in it for the art and money.
Yeah.
And you need both. I mean, you need both.
Yeah.
It's it's an unfortunate thing, but it's the way the industry is. But the industry does open you up now because of the ability to do independent stuff like the Memphis Junk Show. Give yourself a shout out for this. Where's the horn? Where's the horn?
Thank you, and thanks to O too, because it wouldn't be a show without O.
There you go. No. I was just saying that like, do we realize how powerful this is? That you have the ability to create a channel and broadcast your opinion and have guests on that you feel matter, and that's something that 20 years ago you didn't have. You still had to justify the 3 minutes, and we've been on for 41 minutes here. You had to justify the 3 minutes of time that a local news channel was going to give you to tell your story.
Yeah.
So, it's so much better now, but we're still heavily influenced by the larger machinery around us. It's the 800-pound gorilla in the room, and you still have to deal with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've appeared on Fox News Memphis like 5 times.
Okay.
So for doing positive things and positive music too. So I know what you mean about the 3 minutes. The 3 minutes of fame. It's a blessing and it's changed, and you're right. Like now we're able to take the initiative into our own hands, but now I feel like we're up against the algorithm. Now I feel like the main culprit now is the algorithm. What are your thoughts on?
But who owns the algorithm? Let's not put a buffer between us and the people holding the purse strings. The algorithm was created by the people that hold the purse strings to give you at least amount of control, least amount of money as possible, and for them to take the most. When you hear these stories of people that got 1 billion streams and they got $1,500, the math ain't mathing.
Nah.
Like,
No.
come on. Like, there's no way in the world that makes sense. And the fact is that if you didn't, people say, well, if you didn't have this platform, where would your art go? Well, it would go independent and it would go on other platforms that pay you better.
Yep.
But, it's like the algorithm is just, it's like if someone says, hey, man, it's not me, it's them. Nah, it's you. Like, you did this, bro. They is just, you don't want to take responsibility. You don't want to take the blame, but they is you. So the algorithm, I'm not giving it to them. But yes, there is an algorithm. The algorithm does look at different things, and it looks at it on a very whole level. And it excuse me. I don't know. I don't even understand the algorithm. I just know that, like I said, if you have 1 billion streams and you are not a multimillionaire, the algorithm is wrong. Simple.
No doubt. No doubt.
So can the algorithm be manipulated? Can it be bought, or because can it? For one, this is a loaded question. One, can it be bought? Two, it seems like the more negative your content is, the more the algorithm pushes it. It gets It gets more views.
But the algorithm is doing that predicated on. I don't know. I feel we're leaning a lot into, it's truth and conspiracy. And the fact of the matter is that the algorithm is doing what it's told to do. Okay. It's so if the algorithm is pushing more negativity, there is somebody that controls the algorithm and it says, let's make the X component of this vulgarity, negativity, and hostility. And that same person, when it's profitable, will say, let's make it about sweet sunshine and niceness. And then all of a sudden, it's going to be there. We saw a huge resurgence of positive music in the 90s with the neo soul music.
Yep.
And that's because D'Angelo came out and said, boom, brown sugar. And the world said, "Whoa!" And then we had India Ari, we had Maxwell. You know, Sade had been doing it for a while, but it was just one artist. But D'Angelo kind of made it a movement. Then you saw that whole positive, quality music come out. So, mind you, there wasn't an algorithm, but there was. The algorithm was just what the A&Rs were looking for. So the algorithm was a mental algorithm at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Now the algorithm is a real mathematical algorithm, but it still is on whoever controls it. I guarantee you, it is not as hard to change, but it may not be profitable in the beginning, and that's why they're not going to change. And they're not going to change until they have to. They don't have to.
And I think a lot of that, and I say this a lot, I think a lot of that is driven by, and I know you can feed people enough, they'll believe it, but I think a lot of it is driven by what people want. And the reality is people most of the time love negativity. They love the chaos.
Hmm.
And some of it could be contributed to that's all that they see, but some of it is right in your environment. Some of it is right in what's around you, right? So some of this stuff, I think to me, it still can be controlled by the people who consume it, right? Kind of like a positive movement. That stuff happens when people want to see that, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes you see these videos that go viral of, little kids doing beautiful things and having these sunshine moments, and like that stuff takes off, and it's around for a long time. And anything that you put that's in alignment with that, it'll catch on and it'll catch fire too. But to me, it's still in the control of the consumer, right? We still have the ability to impact it, right? If a person who has a billion streams decides to say, "Hey, I'm not getting paid enough, take my stuff off, and I'm going to take it somewhere else," it'll change. But people
Well,
need the money, people need the exposure. So I understand that sometimes you can get you can get squeezed out of a situation and just be the only one. But I still think there's power in saying no and moving to somewhere else.
but you're correct, and we've seen examples of that. We've seen, when Jay-Z started Tidal,
Yeah.
he pulled his content off of every other platform because he wanted to increase the value of Tidal. When Taylor Swift wasn't getting the right deal from her label, she re-recorded her hits and re-released them as hers, so she could get the publishing. So, but you got to have these are two billionaires that did this
Yeah.
because they
Yep.
understood that the algorithm, they're going to see a tremendous dip in their
Yep.
money for a period of time before they come back up. Taylor Swift has huge following, so she knew that if she said to her fans, "Don't get this one, get this one. Don't listen to this one, get this one," they're going to do it. If Beyonce says it, they'll do it. If Jay-Z says it, they'll do it. But these are people that are mega stars and have already, like, they I don't say they beat the industry, but they've used the industry and they've won.
Yeah.
And most people don't have that. Most people have a three album lifespan. You got one album that maybe you have a hit on, and that's great. Then the second album comes out, and either it blows up and it solidifies you as an artist that is, of recognition, or it doesn't do as good. And then the third one is when they go, "Okay, show's over." And how much money do you make in that time? Because all of that is usually off of your first contract, which is probably not a great contract. Just because you
I,
didn't know better or you didn't have the leverage to ask for better. But in your head, you said the next contract could be dope, and the label said, "Sure, it will." And you get caught, and now next thing you know, you're chasing something that you shouldn't have to ever chase. So yeah, it can you do it? Absolutely. Is it difficult? Absolutely. But um, I do genuinely feel that it's a very difficult thing to do, to stand alone and know that, okay, instead of me making $100,000 this year off of the tours and all that stuff like that, I'm only going to make 50. That's real money out of your pocket. That's real food out of your fridge. That's real opportunities out of your family's life. And most people can't gamble for that.
yeah, and I don't disagree with that. And I think mine was more towards, you know, when you started, right? Sometimes I think you have to have a good structure. And maybe that's just where it is. Sometimes the structure dictates it. I remember a time when the local rappers was probably more popular in their city than some of the national rappers, right?
Yeah.
Until exposure kind of boomed.
Yeah.
But I still think that can still be possible, right? You just have to know how to do it. Even when you start talking about algorithm, there are a lot of people who have learned how to manipulate it or how to use it to its advantage, to their advantage, and leverage the tool to be better for them. And I think sometimes it's about spending more time understanding how to use the tool that was meant for bad, use it for your good. And I think sometimes people spend too much time complaining about it versus let's take what you put out there. We're going to use it against you until you move the pole again, and then we'll figure that out.
Those people are few and far between. They don't not exist, but they're few and far between. And yes, when you get a person that understands the industry, understands the algorithm, and tries to use it in their advantage, hold on to that person, learn from them, because that person is a rarity. So yeah, I agree with you. But a lot of people are just like, all right, well, the algorithm wants this. Why fight it?
Yeah.
And the age of the revolution, the revolutionist, the revolutionary, is gone. And I think that there's some revolutionaries still left, but there's not too many Chuck D's still out there, and he's still out there, but the new versions of him are not out there. People that want to go against the grain regardless, and so that's something that I hope we get back to that. I really hope we get back to that.
And I think a lot of that comes from people saying that you can't do it, right?
Sure.
And I think the generations that come behind, right, they believe it because all they've heard is you can't do it.
Yeah.
And so why try? Because people ahead of them keep saying you can't do it. And so I think some of it, a little bit, has to come from the generations before them saying it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a long road, but you can do it, right? Don't give up. You can do it. And I'm not saying those type of acts are not meant for the weak, but like sometimes people have to know that it's possible. And I know sometimes you have to see it in order to believe it, but if all you keep hearing is not possible, then I think you're right. I don't know if that'll ever come back to that magnitude, right? I think we have pockets of it. We see uprisings here and there, but I don't know if it'll ever come back to that level until, the industry is completely destroyed. And I don't know if that'll ever happen, but until
there's a demand for it.
It's easy for you to make money without the industry.
But
I don't know if that'll happen either.
But I'll say this part is that the demand for what appears to be a revolutionist and a revolutionary mindset and the actual desire for a revolution are two different things. You can package anything. So you could package an industry plant that's talking about overthrow the industry, but if you look behind them, just like the Wiz, you see Richard Pryor sleeping on a cot, pulling the strings, So, so you got to be careful because not every revolutionary is actually down for the revolution.
That's true.
That's true. Speaking of revolution, you are the first. You are the first. Do we need to segue? Do I got anything to segue with? Hold on 1 second. Let's segue.
That's our segue music.
I think I'm playing the wrong segue music. There it is. There it is. There it is.
That other one, that was like Looney Tunes. I was like, I don't know what that was.
That was my think music. If I ask a question, that was my Jeopardy music.
Got it. No, this is your segue music.
Okay. So now we got the segue because we have the first African American director of ABC News Live in the building. So we gotta hear more about this journey. Like we gotta hear more about this journey. We know we've gone from you grew up in Brooklyn.
Yes.
You saw hip hop be born. You saw it spawn into what it is today, the number one genre in the world. And
Yes.
somewhere on that path, you started off with ambitions of being an artist, and then you ended up being the first black the first African American
Yeah.
director of ABC News Live. You have to tell us this story.
Well, that the story took 30 years, but I'll take less time than that to tell it. Um, so 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 here's what happened. So of course, everybody, when they listen to their favorite song, they sing along, and in their head, they sound great. They sound just as good as these artists. I'm hitting the same highs that they're hitting. I'm hitting the same lows as Barry White. I'm doing exactly the same thing as these artists. And then the music stops, and
Hmm.
then you hear yourself. And if you're honest, you know that you have no business trying to make a living with your voice. And I had to come to that reality check. It's like, yeah, I wanted to sing, and it once again, it didn't help that here is this artist, my friend Kango, who is doing it. He's rapping, but he's got a voice. He had a very good singing voice, and he's doing it. And I'm like, well, I'm not even as good as him, and he's right up the block from me. And if I have to start competing with people that are, different states and different whatever, I'm like, that's that's a rough hole. That's a rough road to travel. So early on, I decided that instead of me trying to make a living in front of the mic, I would make a living behind the microphone. And so I decided to become an audio engineer. And I went and I did internships, and I went to school. I'm one of the few people I know that went to school for something that they actually did. Because a lot of times you ask a person, "Oh, what'd you go to school for?" I mean, like business administration. Or what do you do? I work at Starbucks. I'm like, you wasted some money there, man. Like
Right.
you didn't line up your desires with your reality. It didn't come together for you. So, but I fortunately early on knew what I wanted and understood that I needed proper education. So education is key. That's that West Indian upbringing. You got to get education. Now, nowadays, you can get education from doing a lot of different things, but I think formal education is so critical because it teaches you two things. Number one, it teaches you whatever you're studying. Number two, it teaches you how to get up, get to a place, regular time, and be a part of it in a social setting and learn and actually immerse yourself in it. Because if you just learn online, you're kind of separated from the full learning experience. So, I went to college and I got my degree in audio engineering and broadcast technology. And all the while, I'm also going to recording studios, and I'm, you know, learning about how to make music from people that are doing it for a living. And so I learned very early on that being an audio engineer was going to be my thing. But I didn't know I was going to do television. I thought I was going to be the guy that was going to record the next Biggie Smalls. In fact, one of the studios that I interned at was a studio that Biggie Smalls recorded some of his early tracks on. I think one song that had actually made it on his first album was recorded at this recording studio. And so, this was the kind of opportunities that I was around, and I absorbed everything that I could. And I worked hard. There was a lot of getting 4 hours of sleep. At one point, I worked from 11 p.m. till 7 a.m. as a security guard at City College, and then I had an 8 o'clock class, and I went from to school from 8 a.m. till about 2 p.m. And then I went to a studio and I interned from about 3 p.m. till about 7 p.m. I got home and then I went to sleep for like 3 hours, got up and did it again.
Mm.
And I did that day in, day out. And but that's what you have to do because you can't just wake up one day and say, I want to be great and not be willing to do great things to achieve greatness. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
You can't just want. You just can't just wish for it. There's no magic genie. You just rub on the lamp, and all of a sudden you get your wish. No, you have to put in the work, and I feel like a lot of people have forgotten that because what they think they see as an overnight success took 10 years to happen.
Yeah.
A
Yep.
lot of people don't realize that. So for me, yeah, there was a lot of effort and stuff, but then I had an opportunity, and yeah, I'm trying to figure out how much because I want because like I said, it's a 30-year story. So what I will say is the first big gig that I had, the first gig that let me know that yes, I'm heading in the right direction, was I got hired at CNN back in the mid '90s, like '93 or '94. I'd gotten hired at CNN, and this is before all the other cable news channels existed. CNN was the top, and I was in there doing audio engineering. So
Wow.
you can't tell me that I wasn't on the right path because I mean CNN, like
Doors
come on.
opening.
What was the process of you landing that role, that position? Did you see the position posted somewhere and then you applied, or how does one get even
Right.
considered for that?
I will tell you that word of mouth and relationships are hugely important. Networking is critical. It's critical in every business. It's very critical because a lot of times when a station posts a job, they've already got the person they want, but they
Yep.
have to post it. So
Hmm.
they post it just so that they can say, look, we posted it. These were the applicants. This is the person we went with. Well, the person you went with is someone that freelanced with you, or the person you went with is somebody that was recommended to you by somebody else. Excuse me. So relationships are critical in making this happen. For me personally, what happened was it's a funny story. Prior to working at CNN, I was working for this very local channel called News Talk Television, and I think it just was in the tri-state. And I was freelancing there. Freelance, for those that don't know, is when you're not staff position, but they call you in, and it's called a contract worker in some places. But you're not staff. You haven't been hired to have a 40-hour week by this company. So they can call you on Monday and then not call you for the rest of the week, or they could call you once a month, or they could call you every day. It all depends on their need and your ability to fill their need. So I was working there, and the staff position opened up at that place, and I applied for it, and I didn't get it. And it was crazy because I'd been doing the very job that they wanted me to do, that they were hiring for. And so the guy ended up going with someone that he knew, but they asked me to stay on and bring the guy up to speed. Well, I don't have any money, so yeah, I'll stay on for an extra 4 weeks and get an extra 4 paychecks. But I was very upset about it. I was like, I'm teaching my replacement. Like, how does that make sense? So anyway, I found out that my replacement thought that I was leaving. He didn't know that I wanted the job that he had gotten.
Mm.
He was so embarrassed by it that he took me to his old job and said, "Hey, check this guy out." And I was working at his old job for about 2 months, and he told me because he had heard about it himself, "Hey, CNN is hiring." And I called them up and I said, "Hey guys, I'd really like to apply for this job." And they looked at my resume and they said, "You know what? We'll consider you. We'll get back to you." And I was like, you know what that sounds like. Don't call us, we call you.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Two weeks later, they called me. And it turned out that like 3 or 4 audio engineers left for whatever reason in a short span of time. And they were like, "Hey, you still interested?" I was like, "Yeah." But now if I was cocky, I would have been like, "Yeah, but now you gotta pay me double." It's like, nah.
That's what I would have said.
No, no, you would not have said that because you would have been a brother in his early 20s and CNN just came knocking at your door. You would have said, "Thank you, yes," and that's what I
Yeah,
did.
you're right. It sounded good though for
It
me to say
sounded,
that.
it sounded good, but I had to keep it real with you, man. Like, cause look, I wasn't at the stage where I was negotiating. The only thing I was saying
Hmm.
was, You still want me? Good. And they signed me up. And that was it, man. That's when my career in television started.
Amazing, man. That is amazing. Wow. How did you like it there? Like when you got there, was it like everything that you had imagined that it was going to be?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, you have to understand, I went from watching TV to making TV. And so I was able to see the inner workings of it. And I was able to see the other elements of television. I was able to see what the cameraman did and see what the technical director did and see what the video op did and the tape playback people and then the producers, executive, senior, the segment producers, all these different positions that most people never knew about. Most people don't know the full team that it takes to go on and produce a show. So I got to see all of that from the inside out. And that was another education. So I had one education that brought me to the door of CNN, but another education took place behind the scenes. And that's where a lot of people learn their best is on the job. It's really important that people understand the importance of on the job training. So when you get a position, don't just think of it as that's the position. That's the way you start. But where you go from there is entirely up to you.
That's gems to live by, man. Because like to me, I feel like the hard work and dedication that you put into one thing that you're passionate about, after you conquer that, it makes it easier for you to set your sights on your next goal and use that same determination and the same focus that you used to get to that first step to get, and maybe add a little bit more this time. And then now you have experience, like you said, at this level. It's when rappers say it's levels to this, that's what they mean. Like you made it to level 1, that was CNN, and then take us from there. Take us from CNN.
Well, I'm gonna do a career montage like those like Rocky movies when he's training and he's training for 3 months, but we don't watch him for 3 months. So I'm gonna give you a career montage. So after CNN, I was with CNN for about 3 years, and then I realized that you know what, if I stay here, then this is gonna be the only place that I have experience at, and so I used those 3 years to really get good. And then I went to Fox News Channel 5, and then I went to Channel 11 WPIX, and then I did some stuff at BET. I worked for VH1 at one point. Um, I worked for I just pretty much I tell people if it had 3 letters in front of it, I worked for it. So it's like ABC, CBS, CNN, FOX.
Wow.
It was just all over. And because what happened is that, and a lot of those were freelance locations. And what people need to realize is there was a huge freelance market. Like if there is 10 staff people at a studio, but there's 25, 30 people working there, the other 20 people are freelancers. But they need freelancers in order to fill in the gaps. So they have a budget for the staff people, but they also have a budget to pay freelance people. So the freelance people fill in the gaps. So I was sometimes, look, there was one point where I was working at ABC in the afternoon, and I was working at WPIX in the morning, and I was staff at Pix, but I was freelance at ABC at this point, and I was basically working like 2 jobs a day. But I'm young, I'm in my 20s, so you're supposed to grind that hard. You're supposed to, get like a few hours sleep on, whatever strip of carpet you can find and get up and do it again. And I did all of that, man. So I went to all of that. I jumped through all of that. And then, I finally circled back. I was staff at ABC at one point, and I was working on soap operas and stuff there. And then I moved on. I did some other work. And then I came back. I'm getting us to where we are now, which is ABC News Live. And this was about going on like 7 years ago now. And ABC News Live was the streaming channel. All these streaming channels started popping up, as you would, well imagine. And ABC News was like, we want to create a streaming channel to fill this market, fill this segment. And so they brought me in, but I was always brought in as what's called a hyphenate, which means that I was going to do multiple positions.
Mm.
And they're doing that because that's a way for them to have one person who has multiple skills do multiple things, but pay them one check.
Nice.
And listen, it's the name. You talk about the algorithm. That's the algorithm in television. Is can I get one person to do multiple things? And that's happening across the board. I'll get deeper into that in a minute. But so what happened was I was always coming in as an audio engineer, tech manager, and director. I was going to learn tech managing and learn directing, but I was coming in to really shore up their audio department. And then once he did that, then I was going to teach me other things. Well, over the course of the last 7 years, that's what happened. So strong in the audio department, circled back to learning tech managing, which is a whole different position. Did that for a few years, getting good at that, and then recently I was like, look, there was a couple of times we were supposed to get my director training started, and the pandemic really blew that out the water. The pandemic created like a 3-year stall in my career trajectory because that was the time that I was supposed to learn. But when that happened, they really reduced the amount of people they had in the studio. So before you could have 30 people in the studio at a time. Now they had 7. And everybody else was doing stuff. The producers were producing from home. You literally only had a skeleton crew each shift to handle the technical aspects of the job. So there was no training, and that really put a delay in my career path. But then once the pandemic subsided, and once everything got back to semblance of normalcy. We circle back to that. And so last year, like around the end of the summer, they were like, look, we're going to get you back into the director training. And so I started learning from the various directors there, started getting better, and just started doing the work. And I've been doing it since September, October of last year. And here's the thing that I found very telling. When I started this, I didn't look around and say, I'm going to be the first African American director. I just wanted to be a director. That's it. I just wanted to be a director. And when I realized that I had become the first African American director for ABC News Live, it wasn't like boom. It was just more like, oh, like you just look around and go, oh, wait. Look what just happened. But I tell people that, sometimes when you push through a glass ceiling, sometimes you don't even realize it because you just had your head down and you were doing the work.
Yeah.
You wasn't trying to break the ceiling. You were just trying to be the best you that the situation called for. And in this case, the situation called for me to be a director. But when I realized that I had walked through the ceiling, and when I realized that I had accomplished this, I had to take a minute and go, wow, look at this. This is something. It may not have been what I had set my sights on, but I couldn't ignore the fact that it was noteworthy. And I couldn't ignore the fact that in this case, I had made a mark. Whether I intended to or not, I had made a mark. And it was something that needed to be spoken of and celebrated and discussed.
Yeah.
Amazing, man. It's just so inspirational. I just hope, that a whole lot of people will be able to learn from your story, listen, watch this episode and learn from your story. It's just phenomenal. And I like the fact that some people will say, oh, you don't need to go to school or you don't need college. And, I've heard people say that, and that's untrue. That's definitely one of the most untruest statements, that a person can say. So I'm glad that you're not that person. You're not on here saying, "Oh,
No.
don't go to school. You don't have to have a degree."
Listen, the things that college will do for you far outweighs the things that not going to college won't do for you. College is not just about the accumulation of knowledge, but it's the accumulation of experience. It's developing relationships. It's learning with your peers. It's having your peers teach you. There's only so much you can do by yourself. And when you absolutely have like-minded people around you that are accomplishing things and doing things, when you do that, it's the great because it builds up your confidence. A huge part of you becoming successful is you having confidence that you can be successful
Yeah.
because you're gonna hit obstacles. And
Yeah.
and what's going to inspire you to push past those obstacles if the only thing that's teaching you is YouTube videos? I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to have a network of people that can bolster you when you feel down, and you usually get those people from school.
So we got to get into 319. Is it 319 Entertainment?
Well, it's actually 319 Media Group.
319 Media Group.
Media Group, absolutely. So, 319 Media Group. So, working in television, as I said, you start to see all the different people that are going to making a show, and you start to see the producers. And it's a double-edged sword because you see some really talented producers, and you go, "Wow, look at those people." Then you see some bozos, and and you say to yourself, "If they can do that, I can do this." Like you're absolutely not splitting atoms over there. And when you see that, you go, okay. And once again, exposure, confidence, and you go, okay, so I can do that. So I decided, I said, you know what? Maybe maybe making a living in front of the microphone was not my destiny, but maybe making a living in front of the lens is.
Yeah.
And so
Mhm.
I did a couple of test shows where I interviewed people and stuff like that. Much like you guys at the Memphis show. Shout yourself out again. And and so I did a couple of interviews, and people said, "Hey man, you look great on camera. You're very comfortable. You're very whatever." And but once again, money talks, and I was making money behind the scenes, so I never really aggressively pursued it. But I always had the desire. I had ideas, and I wanted to express these ideas. And so I said, you know what? The one thing that I've learned from the music side of things and also the television side is if you don't own your content, someone else will take it from you.
Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
There's too many tragic stories of people that said, "Oh, that was my song, that was my show, that was my this, my that," but you didn't get your paperwork right, or you had no way to prove it. So one of the
Yeah.
things that I said was, "Look, every time I have an idea, I'm going to create a pilot. I'm going to do an episode. I know how cameras work, I know how audio works, I know how to edit. I'm going to do this so that at the very least, I have a tangible realization of my idea. So if someone ever says, "Well, I came up with this first," I'll be like, "Nope, take a look at the timestamp on this."
Yeah.
And that was just,
Hmm.
it was, and it was also a way to validate that my idea had value. I'll tell you a story. So I, came up with a few different pilot show ideas. And one idea for a show, and I never got to do a pilot for it, but one idea for a show was everybody wanted to be something when they grow up, a fireman, a policeman, an astronaut, whatever it was. And then you get older and certain realities kick in, and then you decide, I'm going to do something else. And I said, well, what if you had a second chance to follow your childhood dream and do what it is you wanted to do? And I thought this was a great idea. And I called the show Brass Ring because if some of you might understand the concept of it's kind of an old concept. I mean, even though it's become a term that people have used, but back in like the I guess I don't know 30s, 40s, 50s, probably the 50s. If you were on a carousel, there was a brass ring that was hanging just outside of your reach, and you had to really stretch to grab the brass ring. And if you grabbed it, you got a special prize. So I was using that analogy to say, are you going to reach for that dream thing, that desire? Are you going to reach for it one more time before you just settle into, whatever life has in store for you? And so I came up with that idea and I wrote it out and everything like that. Never shot it because, things cost money. Well, in early 2000s, I believe, and you can check this out, there was a show called The Moment.
Mm.
And it was on, I want to say CNBC, but don't quote me on that. No, it might have been on, what, I can't remember the network it was on, but it was called The Moment, and it was exactly that same show. It was people that were given a second chance to chase their dream and then to see if they had what it took to be a fireman, a police officer, or whatever. And I met the person who did it, and I can't remember his name right now. But if you, like I said, if one of you is googling it, you'll see his name. But I met him, and I said to him, and I said, "Hey, man." He goes, "Hey." I said, "You stole my idea." He was like, and I said, "I'm just messing with you." I said, "I had a show. I wrote it out exactly the same way, and I even showed him the notes. And here's why you have to believe in yourself." Excuse me. He said, "Hold on." He pulls out his phone and he shows me a picture. And when they were coming up with the idea of the show, they had a bunch of names that they just wrote on a whiteboard, like, maybe this, maybe this, maybe this. And in the corner, brass ring.
Wow.
And right there alone, I said, my ideas are good enough because not only did he have the same idea, but he had the same name. And the only
Mm.
thing he had that I didn't have was he had money because his father was a very successful producer. So he kind of just slid into that. I mean, he had to work hard. I'm not saying he didn't do his job, but at the same time, he had a blueprint laid out for him that I didn't have, and he had resources. So I knew at that moment that my ideas were just as good, and I just needed to be able to execute them. And so that's what I ended up focusing on. I decided that going forward, what I would do is I would definitely bank my ideas. I would create some pilots so that, of the ones that were more affordable, but I would always I'm not register them because that's the key thing is people have great ideas, but they don't register the ideas. There's no timestamp on when the idea was created. And by doing that, you find yourself just talking to the wind. Because if you don't have paperwork, you don't have nothing. So
Mm.
all of my shows, whether they have a physical pilot or whether they have just an idea, they're registered. And when I launch them, it'll show this idea came up at this time.
So as far as like what what would you say to, like, a person who wanted to, they have an idea
Right.
and they've gotten it patented and they've gotten it trademarked or copyrighted,
Registered. Right.
registered,
Registered.
but they don't have like a whole lot of money to just kind of throw at it. Is there a way to get, what's the best way to get funding for said project?
I mean, that's literally the $1 million question. I mean, I have to be honest with you. I don't have that answer. I mean, if I was able to get funding like that, then I would have had a lot more shows that had gone from concept to completion. Funding is the hard part. Now, I will say everything's a lot easier now. I mean, depending on the show and what its technical requirements are, you can do a show with a very meager budget. But if a lot of my shows, because once again, my background, of course, being television, I don't think small, and
Exactly.
that's actually been a blessing and a curse because I always think like big. Then every idea I have has a budget attached to it because it has to because it can't exist without a budget. If I thought smaller, then I could say, okay, let me just do something on my iPhone or do something on my, on my StreamYard. I mean, I have the ability to do content, but every content that I do, every idea that I have, multi-camera shoot. I'll tell you a story.
Hmm.
I went to the YouTube center. This is like maybe 10 years ago, and YouTube was, this is when YouTube was really becoming a place where people could put content, make money. And so they wanted to teach people how to do this. And so what happened was YouTube would you would go to them, you'd sign up, and for free, they would teach you about how to make YouTube work for you. And so I'm in a room full of people, and these are all kind of content creators, and some of them had stuff out there already. But I'm from television, so I'm like, haha, I'm you children, let me show you how the adults are doing it. And so, yeah, definitely had a chip on my shoulder. Not nasty, but just feeling myself, just a little too much, air in my chest. And so what happened was, they were like, well, hey, do you have some ideas? And I'm like, absolutely. And I had a pilot that I did for a talk show. It's called Salute TV because I was saluting the people of the entertainment industry, the behind the scenes people. And so I had an episode already edited. So they were like, oh, okay, well, let's see what you got. And you give them the URL and they put it up on this big screen and you see the show and it's got cuts and it's got 3 cameras to it and it's got graphics that pop up and everything. And it's looking real good. And I'm like, I just blew these cats away. Everybody else is doing stuff that's looking like this, like, oh, hey, hey, this is what everyone else is doing. Like, hey, I'm sitting here like, I'm like, you amateurs, you. I'm like, it's almost like those movies when the guy thinks he's getting the promotion. It's like, all right, and he starts to stand up, and then it's like, oh, wait, I didn't get the promotion. You got to sit back down. and the guy said to me, he said, this is too complicated for YouTube.
What?
This is like 10, 12 years ago. So he said, you have to do this. He says, people want to feel like they are talking to you. And that happens with this kind of one-on-one, this kind of real movement and stuff. Because this was just at the beginning of the time. So shaky shots were okay because shaky shots conveyed authenticity. It conveyed that a regular person. This is a psychology behind content. You gotta like this stuff. There's layers to this, like you said. There's layers.
Yeah.
And the guy taught me. He was like, "Look, you need to make this more digestible because what you just did was took a TV show and put it on YouTube. And at the time, because YouTube wasn't broadcasting in 4K, so everything was just different. It was at its infancy. You knew that this was going to be big, but everything was at its infancy." And so you ended up having to, he said to me, you have to make this digestible, relatable, and you have to make it smaller. I was like, wow. So so the platform that you are on definitely determines your content or the way you would present your content. So that was a great lesson that I learned that time.
Wow. Speaking to that, it didn't air here in Tennessee, but I've been seeing interviews and stuff that people have been doing, and they're saying that during the Super Bowl, Kanye West did a commercial just like what you're saying. He just had the phone and it was shaky and stuff, and he was telling them go to KanyeWest.com and buy some stuff. And what he did, he had pre-made everything on his website $20. They said he made $18 million that night. Off of a phone video, like you said, a shaky phone video that aired during the Super Bowl.
But let me ask you a question. Don't that hurt your heart just a little bit? I mean, Like, do you understand that I would get in and get out off of that alone? It'd be like 18 mil, goodbye.
Yeah,
done.
yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
out. Yeah,
Right.
that's enough.
Oh man, so it's like, but think of all that Kanye had to do to get to the point that he could do that. So
Exactly.
it's like, yeah, like when people tell you, like, like you're an overnight success, 10 years in the making. So it's
Yeah.
like, nah, man, like Kanye literally went through breakdowns. Kanye has had mental. He lost. I mean, his family fell apart. I mean, we're not trying to, dog the man, but the man has, from the observational opinion, he has some, emotional issues that play themselves out for the world. So whenever Kanye does something, people check in, not always for the right reason. It's almost like,
Yeah.
oh, let's see what he's going to do now. But guess what? $20 a pop, 18 million. Excuse me. And Kanye and he took that 18 million just as he probably said, "Oh man, I didn't make money on this."
Yeah, yeah. He probably. Yeah, you're
He,
right.
he probably viewed it as a disappointment. He probably was like, if I don't make 50 million on this, it's a failure. 18, it's a failure.
During watching the same interview, they said, I can't. They can't read Kanye's mind or his team's mind, but it makes sense. What their assumption was, they said the reason that he probably made everything $20. Also, he didn't have the products already pre-made, so he wasn't going to. You paid a 20, like they were. It was like pre-orders,
Yeah,
so that he wouldn't be stuck with a whole lot of
inventory.
merchant inventory.
And that's smart.
And one more thing, he was able to view the analytics, and since everything was the same price, that tells him what's working, what's not working. All these T-shirts, they're working. They bought a lot of these shoes, but they didn't buy these shoes. But they're because it's all $20. So he really got a chance to mentally kind of evaluate the
Yeah.
analytics to see,
The
like, okay, we're
the most
scrapping
valuable
that, and then
the most valuable part of that endeavor was the analytics. The
yep,
18 million was just the icing on the top. But the
Yeah.
fact that he knows, and like you said, look, he doesn't have to have inventory because he can have a T-shirt. Look, those T-shirts are probably blanks. Like they don't, I didn't know. Like, did they say Kanye or something across, or was it just a regular T-shirt?
I'm not sure.
Well, whatever it was, here's the reality. He's there wasn't somebody in a shop waiting to sew this. These
Yeah.
things are already there. He just didn't buy it, but he knew the manufacturer that he was going to. He already had an account with him, and he just said the manufacturer is going to go from the manufacturer straight to you. All I'm doing is I'm promoting it, and it was brilliant. And like you said, he knows rather than ordering 1,000 sneakers and then hope that you sell 1,000 sneakers, no. I know that these sneakers can get manufactured in 48 hours. From the time you order it to the time I ship it from you, 48 hours. Or the t-shirt, 48 hours, whatever it is. So he doesn't have to have an inventory because the inventory is already over there. But what he needs is the data. And he takes that data and goes to the people that buy data and they goes, so look at this. I made 18 mil off of this. What would have happened if you had given me 100 mil? We could have made, $1.8 billion. That's how they think. And that's the right way to think, man. It's all about, taking a little bit of information and compounding it over a broader arc and turning that into your profit. It's brilliant.
And speaking to what you were saying earlier, he knew ahead of time that the Super Bowl commercials were going to be overproduced. Why not make a shaky camera commercial real quick, like the guy told you?
Listen, and you stand out. So you stand out that you're different. Your production costs are minimal. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm so certain that shaky video probably still costs $500,000 because because when you're at that level, they take each frame of video and they hyper scrutinize that frame and they move something here and they erase something here. So I'm sure that shaky video was not really just him shaking the camera around. But so what? He still spent the least for this video and got the most on a return concept, like bang for buck. He got the most out of it. So Kanye won again.
Yeah,
Once again,
and I can
man, we got to do a part two. We got to do a part two, Dante, man, because there's more. There's more substance to your story. You have so much more knowledge to share with the audience and stuff. And I'm sure that it's just so much more in depth that we can get. You know, an hour is not long enough. So please
No,
let me know if you'll, please let us know if you'll do a part two. Come back and hang with us again at some
listen,
point.
man. Listen, I'll do a part three, man. Listen,
Hey,
I've
Thanks.
got like I
here
said,
for it.
I got 30 years to talk about, and I can't do it in 30 minutes. So, you know, if you guys in your audience wants me back, I'll be more than happy, man. It's a privilege and an honor.
We definitely do. We definitely do, man. So this is the last part of the show. This episode, part one of Dante Dottin's, and y'all be on the lookout for more. You got 319 Media Group. So this is the part where we go around the room. We let everybody say their last thoughts, give their last thoughts of the episode for tonight, and
Sure.
let them know where they can find 319 Media Group, or how they can contact you and stuff.
Okay.
Give some shout outs if you want to give shout outs, all of that good stuff.
Well, I'll tell you what, let me give shout outs to someone who helped make this happen. And I think we gave him an off air shout out, but he deserves his on air props. My man Lion, True School Entertainment. He's a friend, he is a business partner, and he's definitely someone that I trust his opinion. And he told me to do the show, and I just was like, look, when? That was the only question, like, when can we make it happen? So shout out to Lion. Definitely going to be doing big things with him going forward. Shout out to Kango's kids, T. Sean, AJ, Giovanni, and Amancia. These are Kango kids' children, and they are all wonderful, human beings. They are touching different parts of the entertainment industry on their own, but they represent their father's memory whenever they get an opportunity. And so, definitely, I've known all of them since they were born, and I think the oldest one is mid 30s now. Which, how old am I? But you know, but but I just want to shout out to all of them, and know that your father's memory it lives in all of us, and it lives in you guys because you represent him well. And of course, shout out to ABC News Live for having the insight to bring a brother on board. And they knew where the journey began, but they didn't know where it was going to end. And it's not over yet, but it's definitely a journey that we're all very happy that we're on together. So shout out to the whole team at ABC News Live.
Awesome. Oh, you up?
Man, listen, I'm speechless tonight, man. I think this was a great show. A lot of great nuggets for everyone to take away. Y'all have a great day at work tomorrow. That's all I got tonight, Jelks.
Well, once again, I just want to say thank you, Dante, for joining us tonight, man. It's been a blessing and an honor. And I just wish we had more people like you, to represent us, people who look like us, man, because I feel like the knowledge can take us a lot further than just our talent. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of times we depend on talent over doing the actual work. And like you said, getting stuff registered, getting funding and stuff like that is just so much more to it. We'll see one of us on television and we'll think, oh, that's easy, I can do it. Like you said, like with the singing. And then when the music goes off, you start realizing this shit, I can't sing as good as I thought I could. But yeah, once you come on the Memphis Joke Show, man, you're family. So consider yourself family here. If
I
you ever,
appreciate you.
anytime, we appreciate you, man. And anytime you got anything you want to talk about, or you got something that you coming out with, a project or anything, man, just feel free to hit us up, man, and we'll bring you on, let you talk to our followers and stuff about it, man. And
Absolutely.
once again, man, thank you, man. Peace and greatness, much love. We're gonna be in touch for that part two.
Yes.
Everybody out there, I guess y'all was scared to call in tonight, man. But hey, don't fret, cause hey, it's a bet.
We're gonna get them next time. We're gonna get them next time.
We're gonna get them next time.
Yes,
So
sir.
peace, love, happiness, man. Everybody have a good week. You know what I'm saying? We'll see y'all again next Wednesday, man. Peace and love.
Squad up, haters down, haters down. If you ain't about that life, don't come around, don't come around.